Last up we have Mary Kay Rummel. Here it is. Mary Kay Rummel's seventh book of poetry, The Lifeline Trembles, has just been published as a winner of the 2014 Blue Light Press Award. She grew up in St. Paul. She divides her time between Fridley, Minnesota and Ventura, California, where she teaches part-time and is the first poet laureate of Ventura County, California. Please welcome Mary Kay.
Okay, can you hear me if I don't mess with the microphone? I have a pretty loud voice. Can you all hear me in the back? Okay, I love these readings. I mean, they are so different. I go to a lot of readings, and these are like totally different, and they're so interesting, diverse, so many voices. So thanks everybody for your reading. I'm going to read. I've been in every St. Paul Almanac since the beginning, and every time that it comes out, it's like classier and classier. Every issue. I just love this. This one is gorgeous, and I hadn't seen it till today because I've been out of town. So I'm going to read my poem that's in there, which is dedicated to my father. It's called Of Trains and My Father, and I love this because it's got a picture of the Union Depot train yards, where my father, the whole time we were growing up, was a mechanic and worked there. Of Trains and My Father. Trains and my father moved together, his schedule certain as a train's coming and going. Morning departure with clinking lunch pail, evening arrival, heavy with train grease. In long underwear, thick gloves, my father walked the boxcar canyons, outside the St. Paul Depot, in the Como Street yards. Wind lover, wheel lover, bluff over tracks, junkyards, train towns, broken parts, wrench, nut, bolt lover, mechanic fingers tasting of engines. In your dreams did you walk deserted yards searching for the years left there? At home you were quiet, the empty quiet of a train after a long journey. I'm going to read a couple other poems that have been in previous St. Paul Almanacs, and they just fit this because I grew up, you know, like maybe 6 blocks down that way off of West 7th Street, and I went to school at St. James, which is a few blocks there, and then I went for a couple of years to St. Francis, which is just right around the corner. So this is just like, you know, and my poems that have been in St. Paul Almanac, most of them have been, you know, related to West 7th Street. So I'm going to read, and a couple of those are in my new book, The Lifeline Trembles, and I'm going to read a couple of those. Okay. I grew up on this street called Race Street, which is still there as a street name, but the whole neighborhood was cleaned out to build 35W Bridge over the Mississippi. And so, you know, the house we grew up in, they're all gone. And, you know, they made my parents move. And then it went for years because, you know, all the political fights over building that freeway and that bridge. And then, you know, so they could have lived there, you know, like 20 more years. But anyway, it was, and so that's what this, every time I drive across 35W, you know, or 35E, I guess it is, right by West 7th. I just feel like I'm driving over my old house because it's right where it was. So I'm going to read that. It's a bridge. Swept along in traffic on 35E, no time at all to honor this place, my old neighborhood in ruins. In 1 second, wheels crossed my brother's bedroom with the nursery rhyme floor and the closet where G.I. Joe and their baseballs were stored. Another second, and I'm breathing coal smoke, back on the street where it poured from chimneys over icy rooftops on winter mornings. Steaming cream of wheat with milk fresh off the porch before it froze. Then find a warm vent to dress by, slacks under my skirt, scarf over my nose, for the trudge down West 7th Street to school. Frost lined my lashes, wind bent my neck. I miss all the landmarks, Mr. Thin's outhouse, empty lot, florist shop, once standing where I'm driving now. The house went first, then the elm trees. It's not that I remember halcyon days, chaos of boys fighting, fights I ran from, to Kathy Brown's, the one place still standing. I still love, as my brothers do, those narrow streets, windows lit up at night. One summer, kids from West 7th nearly blew up pilings on the Mississippi River Bridge through the wild heart of Old Crosby Farm. I was gone by then, but I know who did it. I'm going to read, this is also a true story, true West 7th story, from when I was growing up down here. River cop. The department didn't know what to do with his large hands, deep anger. So they gave him a boat, the river to patrol. Uncharted territories, nude swimmers, drunken boaters. He had rope swings to cut down every night. They were startled by the zeal, the parade of nude boys, each day's catch, shivering in blankets, because he hid their clothes. My mother rode the bus down to the station to claim my speechless brothers. The Mississippi cut through sandstone cliffs, wild bottoms of Old St. Paul. The river cop's boat, a moving target, as he chugged up and down river, waving his gun, threatening to shoot stray dogs, swimmers, hunters who daily slogged through mud and reeds to check riverbank traps. From the shelter of the river caves, boys stoned his boat. But when they saw the river cop, who couldn't swim, floundering in deep water, they rescued him. True. One summer night, Bill and Jerry dragged a small Civil War cannon all the way to the caves below Otto Street, where they loaded nuts and bolts. Soon metal struck the river cop's boat, a hollow clang echoing through the river chambers, shaking beer bottles off the shelves of West 7th Street bars. True. Sirens filled the streets, but the police refused to chase kids into caves, where in the dark, under garlands of bats, they toasted a new street legend. Boys who would soon die in Vietnam broke free of cramped yards, never naming the violence that cut sweet and murky as the Mississippi through their street lives. I can tell some more, but when my brothers used to get together and tell these stories, you know, at Thanksgiving and Christmas and stuff, and my kids would be sitting there with their mouths open listening to these West 7th Street stories, and they'd get done and they'd say, "We have no life. What are we ever going to tell? We have no stories to tell. Nothing ever happens to us." You know, I mean, that was a different time, right? Yeah. Very different. So I'm going to end with one other. It's from the previous book. It's called "The Heart in Its Cave of Bone." A winter wind blasts from the Mississippi, past caves and oil tanks, over train tracks, then down West 7th, where it batters the girl who walks with ice-crusted scarf bruising her mouth. Beneath the uniform skirt, leggings her mother makes her wear. These she removes and carefully hides in the bushes behind the bowling alley. She passes the bar, then Nedved's florist. Ahead, Schmidt's brewery, sign flashes, a staccato that stays in her striding bones. Always cold, wrapped in layers, hiding bones. Her mind churns with voices. Her mother warns, "Stay away from the river. It's dangerous for girls down there." "Get in the car and help me find Highland Park," the man says. Voices of nuns push her feet as she runs from him. Stay pure, runs with guilt in her frightened Irish bones. She runs through the stacks of the library, from the tall clerestory window where the sun is always going down. She reads the ice-encased river snaking southward. The dwindling light, spare and forgiving, is her own. Frozen there, the chinks in her heart stuffed with feathers, she imagines a Fra Angelico lazuli, feels eternity in her bones. Her thin shoulders hunch where once were, and maybe someday will be, wings.